Hello and welcome back to Red Crick Recap. This is episode number 29, and I'm joined once again by my co-host Ted. Ted, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing all right. A little cold, but doing all right.
Well, we're going to jump right in because we are joined with a special guest today. We have Coach Glenn Box from the Miami women's basketball team joining us this morning. Coach, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
It's an honor to have you on. It's been
Thanks.
long overdue. Well, let's jump right in. I know we don't want to take too much of your time, but once again, thank you for joining us this morning. I know Ted wanted to jump in with the first question, so Ted, take it away.
Okay.
So, Coach, let's talk a little bit about your journey to Miami. You before coming to Miami, you were at Indiana. Miami, wants to interview you. You want to interview with them. They were in a really tough spot when you inherited the team. But what drew you to come to campus and come take over the program?
I just felt like it was a unique opportunity. I was very much aware, being from the Midwest and being in the MAC before. I was very much aware of, the positives that come along with being at Miami. And so, when you get your first opportunity, you want to be in a situation where you felt like you can win and you could build something. This was certainly one of them. So, I mean, there were for obvious reasons, so many great positives that come along with being here. And I just knew for my first position that I felt like this was my opportunity, and I felt like this was somewhere that I could be really successful.
Coach, I want to talk a little bit about that first season, 9-20 in your first season. Obviously, a big step forward this season. But what lessons did you take from that first season into this season to kind of grow in such a short amount of time at Miami?
I don't have control over everything. That was probably my biggest thing. Just feeling like, things have to take place on their own time. Whether that's growth as a player, whether that's just an understanding of systems. You can't always rush everything, and sometimes you just kind of got to take your time and allow time to run its course. And I think that for me was the biggest thing. The second thing I felt like is just even a greater understanding of the type of kid that we need to bring in here. I think that after going through really kind of that tough first year, we had a better understanding, better idea of the player that could have success, not only under me, but and our staff, but at Miami.
And Coach, thinking back to earlier this season, after obviously the first season in charge, and you're coming back for year two, what was kind of the moment this season after like a 4-1 start, and then obviously the 2 wins down in Florida? What was the moment this season where you felt like, okay, this team could be really, really good? Like, was there like a practice or one specific instance, or was it just kind of like a growing feeling throughout the season?
I think it was in last May. We were able to assemble a very good roster. When I say that, I mean on paper we were certainly we had a lot more potential than what we had the year before, and so I don't think that there was that moment, that epiphany moment, because we were always constantly searching for improvement as the year went on. And so we didn't really I can say personally, I didn't take the time to really have that moment, but I just felt like, on paper we had a chance, and that's where it all started. And it gave us tremendous hope, our staff.
Coach, you talked briefly about understanding the type of players you want to bring into Miami. So, for you, we've talked about it with Coach Steele, but for you, what does that look like for you when you're bringing in a transfer, when you're bringing in freshmen or just players to your program that, what do you look for and how do you, I guess, craft your teams?
That's There's a lot of tentacles to that question. From a personnel standpoint, I have an idea what certain kids should look like in certain positions. And from an intangible standpoint, a lot of it is, understanding maturity, having great deal of maturity, self-awareness. Those are two things that stick out pretty quickly for me. Kids that have a solid foundation, those are kids that I'm attracted to. And so, just because, these are rough stretches, and you have to be able to handle adversity. Things get difficult, And so like you have to have kids that are grounded. At least certainly I feel like I need to, because we're at the level for the most part where we're just not going to be typically just going to be physically more superior than our opponents. So we have to have, we have to really be mindful of the intangibles, with what makes, kids successful here. Certainly kids that can handle the academic piece, because that can be challenging for some. And so there are a lot of tentacles to that question, but I can tell you our staff has a pretty good pulse of what it is that we're trying to do.
Coach, I want to take you back to about half or in the earlier part of the MAC season. You start the MAC campaign off 4-5, and then rattle off 5 straight wins, 4 of those being in the MAC. Was there a specific turning point? Was there a specific adjustment that was made that led to that string of success, or was that just your team staying the course? And
I think that's it. Just simply staying the course and allowing things to develop, because I felt like all year we were just really waiting to get hot. I will say early on we were, although the Appalachian State game was a little different, Appalachian State struggled, but outside of that, in the early part of the season, we were just really trying to find our own way. We had 2 freshmen, 2 sophomores starting. We were very, very young. I think we dealt with an emotional maturity piece to it. I think because we were still young as players, and so we were constantly, you know, we felt like we could be good, but we were constantly just trying to play catch up. I felt like for the early part of the season, and so and honestly, I think there were games even in conference play if we could have just been healthy or things would have just went right. I just felt like we could have been even in a better place than where we ended up, and so, it was a good ride. It certainly was a good ride, but I think I learned a lot from the year before and just being mindful of just allowing things to organically run its course. And I think this year I was better, at that in more ways than one.
You talk a little bit about finding your way organically. When you mentioned that the defensive side of the ball comes to mind,
Mhm.
this was one of the best defensive teams in the MAC. So was this something that I guess you preached to your team or you recruited for, or did that come more organically?
That that for the most part is more of an organic thing. I will tell you this: we don't, despite what people think, we don't invest as much time on the defensive side of the ball in practice than we do. But I do feel like we're good teachers. And so we're able to get kids to play catch up pretty quickly. The object of the game is to put the ball in the basket. So we invest a lot of time in trying to do that. Our staff does a good job of preparing our kids for what they're going to see night in, night out. Obviously, we do a good job of putting our schemes and our systems in place. And so, I feel very confident, just from what we've been able to do, what I've been able to do in the past to what our staff is currently able to do right now. And so, um, you know, as the season wore on, I felt like we got stronger in our understanding of what we were doing. Um, and right now at this point with where we are, it's more plug and play. I feel like we're going to be strong defensively for years to come, certainly during my tenure here. And so, I definitely think that, that's a staple of who we are, and look forward to continuing to shut people down and winning games that way.
Coach, yeah, Ted said it perfectly. The side of the ball, I feel like the defensive side of the ball, excuse me, I feel like became a huge asset down the stretch. I distinctly remember games where you weren't letting teams score for 15 to 20 minutes. What kind of advantage does that give you in game and in those situations to kind of just rely on the defense and let the offense do the talking on the other side of the floor?
Well, when you know for a fact that you're going to be able to, like some people think, your defense, your your defense leads to offense, but I think your offense leads to defense as well. So because we were so much better offensively this year, I felt it took a lot of pressure off of us defensively. There wasn't, there weren't as many long stretches of the game where we just simply could not score. Defenses are made to be broken, and at some point they're going to break down. But this year, I felt like our kids had the tenacity and the intensity and the know-how to be a very, very good defensive ball club. And when you have that sort of confidence that you know we're gonna we're gonna hit people with that knockout punch because we can score a little bit, and we know at some point the other team's gonna score. It breeds a different level of confidence because you know that that run is going to happen. And in that run, it's not always, it's not, as you know, about scoring all the time. You got to be able to shut people down. And at some point in the game, it's going to happen where you're just going to be able to. Last year for us, we were going to be able to hold teams in stretches, and it was going to get hard for them. And that's how we intended to be from here on out. So.
Coach, I want to talk a little bit about some of the not just games down the stretch, but the season wide. There were a lot of close games that you pulled out in overtime. Also dropped a couple late on in games, and one in overtime towards the end of the season. What was that experience like? Not only on the coaching side, but like allowing your team to kind of fight through those close games, and what do you think it taught them going into obviously later on in the season and in postseason play?
Well, I think early in the season we actually had a couple probably throwaway games. And what I meant by that was anytime you have a new team, you don't know them. You don't know the individuals. You don't know how they're going to respond. And there were times this year where I just kind of let it run its course. I had to find out who we were and what we were about. And there were instances where I didn't call timeouts, and instances where I let kids play through things that they weren't quite ready to play through. And I think it paid dividends middle towards the end of the season in some of those close games, because we simply had a better understanding of what it was we were doing. I think just how we coach, our kids are more battle tested than others. This is a hard place, and I don't hide behind that. We try to make it hard, and it's hard for a reason to be able to endure and fight through some things. And so I think our kids were more capable, certainly this year than last, to be able to fight through some games and win some games.
You talk about being capable down the stretch and enduring a lot of things, and your team won 8 of the last 10 games in the regular season leading up to the MAC tournament. Um, you guys got a tough matchup against Kent State, and it didn't go your guys' way. But what is the kind of, I guess, feeling towards how the season ended with a tough WNIT loss and a tough MAC tournament loss? This is still a very young team with not a lot of postseason experience. So, what is that mentality moving forward?
Good question. Good question. The season did not end the way that we had hoped. With that being said, it's just part of it's I don't know, it's just part of the growth of the program. You're gonna hit those rough stretches. A lot of times you don't just go from bad to great. There's the in between that you kind of have to go through, and I feel like that's what we were doing. We were going through that when we played, Kent State in the tournament. They beat us in my heart because they'd been there before and they were more ready. They had more championship DNA than we had. They were able to execute and make plays on the offensive side of the ball where we were not. We had plenty of chances to win that game, take control of that game. We dug ourselves a hole in the second quarter that basically cost us the game. And many of that was just breakdowns. You give them credit for doing what they needed to do, but our kids had to learn those tough lessons. And now, we even talked about it in the halftime of that game. Like, this is what championship level basketball looks like, and our kids had never really understood what that meant until they were actually in there. Moving forward, we have a very strong nucleus that's returning. I feel like with the group that we have, the kids that are currently returning, they bring a lot to the table. Now they've been through it. They understand what that looks like. So far in our first week, our off season's been good, and you could tell like they enjoy being around one another, and they're our future, and we have, if you look around, even in the MAC right now, we have more than everyone else in the league right now, and so I'm very, very confident, if, health plays its part, we're gonna respond in a big way with the group that we have.
Coach, I know the transfer portal era has kind of made roster construction and everything a little bit more foggy, especially at this point in the offseason. You have announced you have brought in one transfer already, Brooke Blumenfeld
Mhm.
from NIU. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes.
How does she fit into that type of player that you said that you're looking for when you bring players into Miami? What does she bring to the team next year?
Right away, she's a kid that can score against any opposing big in our league. She's proven that. She averaged 9 a game, 20 minutes, shot about 49%. She's a kid we can just throw the ball to in her minutes on the floor and get us an easy basket. Sometimes this year we struggled with that, being able to get an easy basket, and so right away, that's what she brings to the table. Moving forward with that, she's older. She's been through this already, so she knows she's beaten really good teams. She's beaten, really good opposing post players, and so bringing that experience, I feel like right now we have the best front court moving forward in our league. We have a trio of kids that can play. I expect Ilsa to take another leap forward, but Brooke is going to improve by leaps and bounds here. Certainly on the defensive side of the ball. And I feel very fortunate for our staff and for our team that we were able to bring her into the fold. We got a really good player, and so I'm excited about that.
Coach, also obviously on the flip side of that, you're losing one of your top scorers from last year and Angelina Gonzalez into the portal. How do you foresee trying to replace or even build on that production that she brought last season? Is that in-house? Is that looking elsewhere? Is that high school kids coming in?
No, it's definitely not high school kids coming in. We're trying to bring in some experience, some kids that fit with what we're trying to do. She was a good player for us. She helped us, but we certainly feel like there are some other areas that we can replace that will be fine. We're grateful for her for her stint here, and we're going to be fine moving forward. We just have to find the right complements to what we currently have. There are a million ways you can win. Trust me when I say that. And so, we chose to rock a certain way last year, and it was good for us. And I have enough experience, as do our staff. We can be as amoeba like as we need to be to win games, and I'm not afraid to do whatever it takes to win games. So we're going to be just fine.
And we'll finish up with this last question. Obviously, the new news in the basketball world is the new arena coming to Miami.
Mhm.
What are you looking forward to about the new arena? Does that change your recruiting at all? Just, overall thoughts on this new arena coming up.
I think it's incredible. It doesn't happen everywhere. And from the looks of it, it's going to be absolutely amazing. I think it's going to attract future recruits as we move forward. We haven't really got too deep into discussions with some of them quite yet, because we pretty much we jump right into the portal. Like, that's consumed much of our time, recruiting kids in this short time. And so, but I do think with high school kids, it will pay some dividends, knowing that that's in their future, to have something like that. And it looks quite amazing to me. I think just the practice courts alone, having extra work, the opportunity to work. I just like the setup around it, similar to some village areas, and in the professional ranks. It's going to attract people. It's going to be cool. It's going to be really cool. So I'm excited about it.
Well, Coach, thank you again for taking the time to talk with us this morning. Any final words for Red Hawks fans on what they should look forward to next season or going forward with your program?
Well, it's not so much what to look forward to, although I think we're going to be good again. I think it's just more me. I just want to take the time to express my gratitude. I'm big on that, making sure people are aware that, you know, I'm gonna speak for myself. I'm very appreciative of, their the love that they've expressed to not only myself but our program, our staff. It's been an amazing experience thus far, and our aim is to give them what we came here for, and it's what they deserve. And so, just stay with us, continue to move forward with us. And I'm very, very, again, appreciative of Red Hawk Nation. So thank you.
Well, Coach, thank you. We can't wait to watch your team going forward next season. Thank you again for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, guys. You all have a good one.
Yeah,
You too, Coach.
Thank you again to Coach Box for coming on the show this morning. We really appreciate him. Obviously, a huge jump in his second season, and we cannot wait to see what he does next season with this new look Miami roster. Speaking of, though, the last topic we discussed with him was the Arena District. This has been a hot topic at Miami for a while now. We've talked about this at length and ad nauseum, but this is the first time that they've posted a video or a photo of what it may look like in the future. This was what was posted to Miami social media. I did not get this anywhere else. This was on their Instagram page. Obviously, it's not a full view of it. It'll extend pretty far down off to the left over on this side here, or off on this side over here. This is just like kind of one corner of it. But I mean, off first glance, I mean, it looks awesome. It looks great. And it's kind of, what I've liked about it is it reminds me of kind of the style of architecture Miami's kind of gone for in recent years. I mean, this little glass bit with the ceiling looks exactly like the McVeigh data center, which is kind of over that way as well. Obviously, I also love that they're not getting rid of Pulley Tower. That's a huge, tradition, or it's a huge, mile or landmark at Miami that I know alumni love to come back and visit. Did they ever announce what's kind of back over here to the right?
That's going to be a restaurant. As you can see, there's like umbrellas and tables and chairs over there. That's going to be a restaurant that's like essentially connected to the stadium. I was able to chat a little bit with somebody who's on the planning committee. And so I after having that discussion, I am starting to understand more and starting to like the Arena District a little bit more than what it would have been over by Goggin. If it was over by Goggin, it'd just be a stadium. There'd be nothing else there, just a stadium. With the Arena District, what it allows it to do, it allows us to have like a brand new parking garage. So they're going to build a brand new parking garage, which is going to be needed because parking over there already stinks. But it's going to be a brand new parking garage, which I believe is going to be open to students during the week. So if you have to get the Farmer, there's another area to park. Obviously it's going to sit right in front of Farmer, so it's going to be this brand new, beautiful building. It allows a restaurant to take shape there. I don't know 100% what it's going to be. If it's going to be like a chain, if it's going to be like a local thing, I don't really know. I don't really know when it's going to operate either. I don't know if that was discussed quite yet. As you can see, that kind of black area with over the arches. Those arches are going to look really cool. Obviously, there's some arches over by Sorority Quad, and then obviously the famous Miami Arch in Upham. But yeah, so the reason that they chose Cook Field is because 50% of Cook Field is not used half the year. So it's like that grass area isn't used. And I know students are like kind of upset about it. But the new intramural field, they are putting $7 million into that project over there. They're gonna it's gonna be completely brand new AstroTurf over there. There's gonna be pickleball courts, tennis courts, basketball courts, just so much more than what Cook Field currently offers. So I'm starting to come around to the idea of the Arena District a little bit more.
Look, I understand it from the fan perspective and the student perspective. I know Miami is not a school that has a lot of interest in athletics. We're under no, illusions about where Miami stands athletic wise on campus. I know a good amount of students don't care whether or not our teams are good, whether or not our facilities are good, because they don't go anyway. And that is fine. That is completely understandable. I get it. This is deeper than just taking away Cook Field. And I think that this is lost on a lot of students, and that's why a lot of people have been upset. I'm looking at this from like an economic, rational kind of financial point of view. The financial benefit that this brings into Oxford and that community as a whole is huge and would dwarf any amount of money that's brought in by Millett. That's the simple fact of it. The sponsorship opportunities that this facility would provide, the amount of event opportunities that a state-of-the-art arena would provide, the economic impact that a restaurant alone would provide, especially over there, would be huge. Obviously, like the parking garage, even if you charge money for that, that's a lot of money flowing into Oxford. This generates revenue for the university in a way that would be impossible at Millette. That's the simple fact. And at Miami University, they do have a responsibility to generate revenue to also improve other areas of the campus. And this is a good way to generate revenue at its core. That is my mindset at it. I don't think, like, I understand losing Cookfield sucks. I'll be the first to admit, like, I love Cookfield. I think it was a great part of campus. It generated no revenue apart from like the $25 in intramural sign-up fees. That's why the university did this, because if you just do the stadium over on the South Quad campus or the South Quad area, you don't get the added revenue from the restaurant or the garage or whatever else you may put over there, whatever else may go into the arena district. You simply don't. So I think this was just the most logical choice, even if it was very unpopular. I also think that for the vast majority of students who are against it are students who are here right now. This doesn't affect us. This has no bearing on whether or not we're going to enjoy our time at Miami. This won't be done for long after the freshmen now are done.
2028 is when they're planning to open the arena, is what I was told.
Okay, so sure, like the freshmen might have 1-2 years of it, if assuming they start now or are coming in next year. Juniors, seniors, for lack of a better term, be quiet. Shush. This doesn't affect you. And I'm so sick and tired of hearing people with like, oh, like great. I get it. Great memories, Cookfield. I understand. I get it. This is better. This is a net benefit for the university. This is going to be really cool. And I think that if people started to kind of just accept that this is going to happen and look at it for what the benefits it might provide, they'd start to look at it in a different light. It's also not like we're losing. You're getting a new intramural facility, and it's going to be better than Cookfield was. Granted, it's a little bit of a further walk for most students. I understand that. It's 5 minutes away. It's not that long of a walk. It's not that bad. So I understand why some people are upset. I get it. I also just kind of like, you can be upset about it and be wrong. And I think that's what is the case a lot here.
Yeah, excuse me. I want to emphasize again, like, this wasn't a decision that happened overnight. This has been in the plans for 5, 10 years now. Like, this has been something that they have been planning forever. And it just happens that this year they finally have two teams that have some serious momentum. Excuse me. But yeah, there's two teams with some serious momentum, and they're finally capitalizing on it. And this is probably going to be close to, in total, I think the arena is like 130 million, 120 million. The project itself will be probably close to about 250 million, I think. Again, I want to emphasize 250 million is going to seem like nothing by the time, they start recouping money from this. It's an $80 million bandage to fix Millette or to renovate Millette. Millette has so much wrong with it that, like, it's like, okay, it's $80 million and you maybe get 5-10 years out of that bandage before you have to get another $80 million in there. So it's like, why not spend the 120 to get a brand new arena that'll be good for 20-25 years, and then you can start the whole discussion over again. But it's just like, I get it. There's people love Cookfield, but at the same time, like, the only time I see Cookfield being used is for intramurals. Like, that's it. Like, it's not like anybody's lying out on Cookfield. I mean, realistically, like,
Yeah.
so I understand the frustration, and I understand the kind of like fake like survey they put out where it's like, oh, where do you want to see it? But we already have it planned out. Like, I get that. That is kind of a douchey move, but like at the same time, like, if you really had an opinion on it, then you'd be out on Cookfield almost every day that it's sunny and over 60 degrees. Like,
Yeah, for me, again, I'm not going to dive into like the social culture at Miami. That's a whole different conversation that I am far from qualified to speak on. But you can't have it both ways. You can't complain about Millett and then complain when this happens. Like, this is, you can't have it both ways. You can't say, "Oh, I don't go to Millett because there's, the concessions suck and there's, it's too big and it's never full and all that." Because that was definitely, a sentiment that was felt throughout the campus, which at times before the momentum started to pick up this year was fair. You and I have been at plenty of games where Millett has been empty, and it is not a fun place to watch a basketball game when it's empty. So I do understand that sentiment. Then you can't then say, "Well, why didn't we just keep Millett?" You know why we can't keep Millett. It's the reasons we just talked about. It's outdated. You need 80 million to bandage it to maybe make it good enough for the next 10 years. And that's a tall task, judging by like how much you'd have to fix at Millett. I understand it's a lot of money. I understand you're losing a very valuable or tradition that has been part of campus for a long time. I understand it. I understand the frustration. This could be really cool and really change the way Miami's looked at on a national scale. Potentially, again, this is all hypothetical, but if they are able to use this as not just a recruiting tool, but as a way to maintain people and keep good student athletes at Miami for longer periods of time, whether that's not just the arena, but like the facilities that come with it, with the practice arenas and stuff like that, then this becomes a whole different argument where suddenly you can put Miami on a national stage if they are able to use this kind of momentum to go to a couple NCAA tournaments, to maybe win a game in the NCAA tournaments. That puts you on a national scale that we've seen drastically benefit other universities. I can speak for Loyola Chicago. Their national brand recognition went through the roof after the Final Four run. I'm not suggesting Miami's going to make a Final Four run anytime soon, but you look at if that's something that's possible, look at what it could do for the school. So I do think that, like, yes, I feel like I've said it a million times. Like, yes, it sucks to lose Cook Field, but the benefits that this could bring outweigh the not doing anything.
I also want to mention, like, it is much easier, and this is from a broadcast, like TV standpoint, it is much easier to go to a nice arena and broadcast a nice arena that feels a little more full because of the way that it is, than go to Millett Hall. And even if Millett is somewhat full, like it was for the Toledo game, right? Was it Toledo where they went to overtime?
I think it was Kent State.
Kent State, sorry, yeah, yes, they blew Toledo out of the water. That's right. But like when that was full. Don't get me wrong, that was full. But it's like there's still, chairs in between a lot of people, and I mean, heck, you don't even get the people like on the sides, like because they're so far away from the court. Um, so it's like, it's much easier to go to pick a school and go, okay, let's broadcast here at Miami. Let's give them an extra couple, $3,000 to come in and broadcast, right? It's much easier to do that. And then you're right, from a recruiting standpoint and a retainment standpoint. I mean, why would you want to go to a school? And I'm not picking on anybody here, but why would you want to go to a school where like the stadium is old, it's dingy, it's big, it's massive, the practice courts are and everything else is kind of like. Or would you want to, come to a school that has a brand new facility, like all this new, weight room and practice courts and everything you could imagine? I mean, look, I'd rather go to the one that's got all the new stuff because that seems a little more fun. But yeah, I mean, and again, emphasize, none of this is like seniors and juniors and sophomores' money unless they choose to donate. Like, you don't have to donate. They have people waiting in the wings who are ready to donate, who have a lot more money than all of us combined. Like, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Wally Zerbiak donate enough money to get his name on the court. Like,
Yeah, like this is also just the new reality of college sports. It's adapt or die, and I think Miami's starting to realize that in this new era of college sports, you need to have revenue generating facilities or revenue generators in any way, shape, or form. And this is that. One of the main things we've talked about with Coach Steele, and Coach Martin even said it, and I'm sure other coaches have around our campus too, but Miami's campus is one of the best in the conference, if not in the Midwest. We have one of the most gorgeous college campuses, some of the best academics in the region, if not in the conference. Uptown, the social scene is about as good as you can get. So you're adding state-of-the-art facilities and state-of-the-art programs into that, mix of benefits. And suddenly this is one of the most attractive destinations for recruits, maybe outside of the Power Five in the region. So I think that just gives them a huge leg up in a lot of different factors. I want to briefly touch on this before we move on, but it's not hard to imagine if this is a success where Miami starts to look at some other facilities around campus and start thinking, maybe we start, modernizing again. Maybe we take a look at Jaeger. Again, I think Jaeger's fine as it is for the purpose that it serves, but if you want to start generating more revenue around your athletic department, I think finding a way to get more like box seating or luxury seating in or a lounge or something into Jaeger could be a massive revenue generator. I am not an expert. I don't know how much that would cost, what kind of impact that would have, but right now Jaeger only has, I think, 1 or 2 suites that I'm sure generate a good amount of money for the football program and for the university as a whole. You get that to 10, 15 with the wealthy alumni that Miami have that are still in the Cincinnati area. Suddenly you're generating, 5 times the revenue that you're currently generating, and that's just from one change. So I think we're going to start looking. Sorry, last thing I just think we're going to start looking to find a way to get more money coming in from the athletic programs that maybe we have in the past.
No, I think you're right. I mean, I would love to see some more suites. I don't know what again, yeah, you're right. I don't know what the cost would be. I don't know what the architecture, like how that would work and everything. If I'm looking to upgrade Jaeger, rip out all the metal benches and replace them with like actual seats, please. Like that is probably the one thing as like a student that like probably deterred me, or not even really deterred me. What deterred me as a student was just like I don't really want to go to a game in the pouring rain on a Tuesday night in November. Like, no offense. Um,
I don't think anyone would question that.
But like when you go and you sit down, especially on like parents' weekend, and you sit down on these like metal benches and you're in the sun like all day, like it stinks. It hurts. um,
You're
but yeah, I mean, I'd like to see I'd I'd like to see how this works out for Miami. I do wonder where they're gonna put the Embry statue. I wonder if it's gonna be like you see that little like enclave at the front. I
I
wonder if
want
they
to
like
like here, kind of.
either there or like where that big Miami M is. I wonder if like they like put it in there. I know that like the Cavs they had to move all their statues inside so they weren't getting vandalized.
Yeah.
Um, I know that's not a problem at Miami, but I wonder if like that's a type of thing that they do to like honor Embry. But yeah,
I did see someone put in the comments that it would be cool to see, like, they have the Hall of Fame at Millette, which is just kind of a wall of pictures and stuff, which is still cool. It's still a fun walk through Miami's history. If they're able to find a way to get that into like one of these corners or one
yeah,
of those little like pavilion areas, I do think that would be pretty cool. And I think that's probably where they would end up putting it. I
yeah.
also, as we've talked about, I don't think he's the last statue we're going to get in the next coming years. I think we got a couple in the pipeline, but we'll talk.
Minimum 4 or minimum 3 more, I think, just
Yeah,
from
I
the
agree.
men's
I
side.
think that seems like a good number for me.
And I mean, unless Peter Suter leads us on a magical 15 seed Cinderella run, I mean.
All right, I think we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves now. But all right, well, we've talked about the arena enough. I feel like we're up to like 2 hours in total on the show talking about it over the last couple of weeks. But we'll jump in and talk about some stuff that we wanted to cover before we talk about baseball and softball. First of all, we have a national champion on campus. I'm not sure if we've ever been able to say that before. So shout out Miami Dodgeball. Just side note, did not know we had a dodgeball team. Hand up, didn't know. But they're the national champions in a 3-2 overtime win over Cincinnati. I read our good friend of the program article, Chris Vogt, did an article on them. I think the program's only been around for like 4 or 5 years, and to already be a national champion. Again, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm an expert on what the competitiveness is in college dodgeball. But I mean, either way, that's still an awesome achievement for a group that hasn't been around for too long. So shout out Miami Dodgeball, bringing home a national championship to Oxford. Super, super cool achievement. Yeah. Anything to add on that?
I mean, if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. But Yeah, I mean, I think like when they first started, they had no wins. They had one win in 2021. They could barely field enough people at nationals. So to see that they had a comeback win, by the way, they were down 2-1 with like a minute left in the second half, and got a big catch immediately threw out another UC guy was able to tie it up and things like that. So that's huge. But yeah, college dodgeball apparently just runs through Ohio. Um, like every now and again, I'll see this like top 25 in the dodgeball rankings, and Ohio has like 15 teams of the top 25, and then three of the four final four teams were Ohio teams. It was Akron, UC, Michigan State, and Miami. So, like, honestly, I guess dodgeball runs through Ohio.
I love it. I think that's great. But yeah, no, I don't have much else to add on that. I got to do a little bit more digging on that story before I'm qualified to talk about it. But yeah, awesome. Shout out to them. Obviously, the biggest story in sports this week, the Masters is on. So I wanted to do a quick shout out of Miami golf. Brett Podopinski had a hole in one at the
Ooh,
Calusa Cup last week. I think it was
yeah.
hole number 11. I got to double check that. The team finished 8th, but I mean, Brett Podobinski just lived every guy's dream and sinking a hole in one. So shout out to him. That rocks. They're traveling up to Columbus to play in the Buckeye Invitational this weekend. We'll keep an eye on that and post everything that comes from that if there's anything crazy. But yeah, any obviously outside of Miami golf, any Masters predictions, anything you've been following before we?
Um, Man, Masters predictions. I like Ludwig Oberg. I think he's due for a big win. I mean, he finished second last year at the Masters. He's second right now. Justin Rose is playing incredibly well, which, as somebody who's watched him, for lack of better terms, choke a couple of Masters away, I think it'd be cool to see him win. I mean, I don't have any qualms with him. Disgusting day from Rory yesterday. Um, I At this rate, I don't think he's ever going to win the Masters. Um, he's just cursed, man. He's just cursed on the Masters.
He looked really good yesterday up until that double on, I think it was 15.
Yeah,
Where
it was.
he put it over the back of the green and then tried to roll it on, and it just rolled right off and
He
into
had
the.
two. He had two doubles on the back nine. He was -4 going in the back nine.
I think he was just a head case after that first one that went in the water. I think he was just kind of just trying to get through and just trying to force it to kind of stay in that number. And I think he just completely lost his head in that back couple holes. I also Oberg is one of the guys I'm keeping an eye on. I do think you're dead on. I think he's due. He plays Augusta incredibly well. He's a super smart golfer. The guy I refuse to be out on so far is DeChambeau. I mean, every time I look down on, I know, live golf guy, but every time I check like the range tracker, he's out there. He was out there until like 8 o'clock yesterday. He was out there at 6 a.m. today. He's hungry for a Masters win, man. He wants it so bad. And I think if he puts together enough, okay, let me put it this way: if he puts together another day of like 2 to 3 under and just stays in that top 5 to top 8, anything can happen after the cut. Anything can happen on Saturday and Sunday. So I think if he just has to stay around that 6-7 under number and hope that, like, obviously if Justin Rose just goes nuclear again today, then that's a whole different story. And if Oberg goes nuclear, if Scheffler has like a day where he's 6 under, that changes everything. But I think as things stand right now, if he can just hang around in that 2-3 under spot per day, I think he'll be just fine.
Yeah, um, I agree to a degree. The one thing that I noticed yesterday with DeChambeau, that like really makes me think that he just can't get it. Like he hit like a bad drive. Okay, dude smokes it middle fairway, and he's just cursing himself out the whole walk down. And it's like if he's that emotional after one bad drive, he's got 54 more holes to play.
Yeah.
And it's like I still think he has changed his image. Don't get me wrong. From what he was when he was on PGA Tour to what he is now, he's completely changed his image. I've actually like started to come around to like liking him a little bit more, but I still think he's just too hot headed to to do it. I mean, I know he won the U.S. Open, but like that whole time he was just calm, cool, and collected because he had already won the U.S. Open. That was his second U.S. Open win. He knows he can do it. For the Masters, I think he's just always in his head when he gets to the Masters. It's the same thing with Rory. I mean, I know DeChambeau is minus he's -4 right now. He's tied for second, but again, I mean, you can never count out Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah.
You never count him out. I'm trying to
He's
think.
still the odds-on favorite too. Like Justin Rose is like the third favorite right now, even though he was 7 under yesterday.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Coming into this, I had a lot of hope for I had a lot of hope for Tom Kim, just because I love his personality. He's our age. He's only like 22 years old. Like I mean, I love him a lot. I had a lot of hope for Shoffley. I mean, but they're both +1. JT, Jay Spieth, they're both +1 right now. Like they're having a rough outing. And my dark horse pick, and this is huge dark. Oh my gosh, Max Homa is +3. Holy crap! What the hell? How do you get so far down so quick, man?
Homa had a bad back nine yesterday. I think he
Oh,
finished 2 under, so he must already be on the course. But
yeah, he's plus. Yeah, he's plus.
Homa was my like dark horse, like top 5 pick because I
That was
picked
my dark horse. Yeah,
picked him last year, and he won me a lot of money. So I was like, he plays Augusta well, all that, and he's just not looked good so far.
yeah, he was my dark horse. My super dark horse is Tony Finau. Like he's always been kind of like near top 5 when he like plays well, and I'm like, look, if he can be top 5 in that last day, and he's within 3 strokes, I can see him getting it because he's. I mean, I like Tony Finau. I think he's a good guy. I'd love to meet him.
Yeah, it's not really a dark horse pick at this point, but I still think Colin Morikawa's in with a shot.
Dude, I love Morikawa.
I'm not out on him yet, but I mean he has to be dialed today to even get close. So he's still a guy I'm keeping an eye on. He's still in like my like starred golfers on the Masters app, but I think the guys we talked about, it's like Oberg, Scheffler, DeChambeau. I think it's on. I would take one of those 3 versus the field, to be honest with you. I just don't think Justin Rose has the juice to get it through the entire weekend. I think he had a great round, but I think you need to have at least 3 great rounds to win the Masters, and I just don't think he has 2 more in him. So that's just my personal opinion. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a golf expert. I watch probably like the last round of like maybe 10 tournaments a year. So, but I do think it is one of the best weekends of the year, no matter which way you put it. Like it is one of the best weekends to sit around and watch golf. So we'll keep an eye on it. If anything happens, I'm sure it'll end up on social media. It always does. But
Right.
before we run out of time, let's jump in to talk about the 2 teams still playing in the latter portions of our season here for the 2024-2025 season. And we'll start with baseball. They're 0-2 in their last 2, but that doesn't include the 2 wins before that over BG to take the series against the Falcons 2-1. Funny little tidbit about this. Follow most of those guys on Instagram, and they reposted something, but D1 Baseball, which is like I don't know how to explain it. They're just like they're a website that basically just predicts and writes about Division I baseball. The experts predicted this series. I think there was 14 of them. I think 13 predicted Bowling Green to win this series. One guy picked Miami. So that one guy looks really good right now. Bowling Green is always a really good team, and anytime you can pick up a MAC series win against a team that's going to be in the top into that MAC tournament is always a plus. The way that they did it was also very impressive, just kind of well-rounded on both sides of the ball. We talked about it earlier this season. This team's going to go as far as their pitching takes them, and I think for the most part in this series, the pitching did pretty well. I'm going to double check that. Yeah, I mean like 5-2, 7-4, 7-6. The 7-6 loss obviously hurts, but like if you're only allowing in that we talked about like 4 to 6 runs range with this offense, you're going to give your team a chance to win the ball game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the team's been, they've been on fire, and I know they've lost 2 straight, but like when they play these out of conference games, usually they're kind of swinging above their weight because it's like they got to play Butler, Indiana, UC, like all teams that are, above their pay grade a little bit. So Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Anyways, Miami, they're number 3 right now in the standings, but it's because Kent State and Ball State haven't played a series. Like they're missing one series. I think their series might have gotten canceled, just due to like inclement weather. But they're 3 games behind everybody else in the league. So, so like they have a higher winning percentage, but it's because they played less games. So Miami's in a really, really good spot right now, and there's still a ton of baseball left to be played. I mean, they've only played 15 games in conference. I think they played minimum like 30 games in conference or something like that. So they still have a couple more series coming up. They got a series against Kent State, Central, Ohio, Akron, and then Ball State to round it out, and then they have a bunch of random games like at Kentucky. Bellarmine, at Sanford, at EKU. So all this, there's still a lot of baseball left to be played, so we can't get too far ahead of ourselves. But Miami should be sitting pretty come MAC tournament time.
Yeah, I mean, I've been super impressed with how this team's been put together. Talked about it a little bit before, like the bats are insane. 7 guys are hitting above 300. That's dumb. That's insane. That's one of the crazy. That's the best I've ever seen in my time at Miami. 4 players are in the top 15 in weighted runs created plus in the MAC. That's a Fangraph stat that I'm using. Anthony Zarlingo is the team leader, and I think he was around 160. He's hitting 367 with a 23% walk rate. That's ridiculous. That's ludicrous. That's insane. That's numbers that could put you in contention to be drafted. Obviously, it's too early to say. I want to see how the rest of the season plays out, but that kind of offensive performance in a conference that is notoriously pretty tough to generate high levels of offense it warrants a look. It warrants more than one glance at it. So I would be surprised if no one from Miami goes in the draft this summer. I would not be surprised if we have 4 or 5 guys picked up.
Mm-hmm.
It's very early to tell, and obviously with the new NIL thing, there's a chance that they may not even sign and may try to transfer into the SEC, a la Rylan Zaborowski. So that it is the way that baseball teams are being built now is so different that I'm just not even going to comment on what this team might look like in the future, just because it's so unclear. 2 more guys I do want to shout out, though. We talked about it earlier. The pitching staff has to be dialed for this team to be successful. Carson Byers is leading the conference in ERA with a 2.35. That's in the top 70 nationally, and with how many teams play Division I baseball, that is pretty impressive. He's going to be he should be like the bullpen ace of this team. He's going to be that 2016 Cleveland Guardians Andrew Miller, where you just throw him in when you need to get outs and let him go as long as he possibly can. So he's the X factor for that pitching staff. Cooper Katsky has been really good too. I have to look to make sure. I can't remember if he's starting games or not. He's not. He's coming out of the bullpen too, but he's got a 1.09 whip in 8 appearances with a 3 ERA. Again, it's only 8 appearances, but that's really solid numbers. He's got 35 innings pitched in that time. That's pretty darn good. So I think those 2 guys are just kind of going to be the workhorses of the bullpen. Obviously, they're not starting games, but the way Miami's been built this year, not a whole lot of guys are starting games and going deep into games. So you kind of have to rely on these guys to come in, get you 3-4 innings at a time, and just kind of ride through them. So those 2 guys, I think, are going to be kind of the X factors for this team come postseason time. But all in all, just super impressed so far. Huge step forward from where we were last year and huge step forward from where we were 2 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just credit to Coach Smiley, man. Like he is like really just turned around the program on a dime. It feels like Coach Hayden's last year at Miami was really depressing. It just felt like baseball. They played games. That's just kind of how it felt. But now it feels like we're actually playing for something more. And even last year, like it felt like we were playing for something more. So really, really excited to see where the season takes the baseball team. And then on the flip side of things, softball. I mean, I feel like a broken record saying it. They're so damn good.
Yeah, you're dead on. I mean, we talked about it before. We obviously I think in retrospect, we put a little too much weight into the non-conference games. I think we were a little, overzealous in saying that this team took a step back from last year just because of that performance in some of those early season games. In reality, this is a new coach, and frankly, 60% of that roster is brand new. So considering all of that, for them to be 13-1 in MAC play, I think they've won 12 of their last 13, 8 games over 500 now. That's something to be very proud of for this program. It's something that you can take a lot of pride in. And I mean, once again, this team's probably the favorite to win the MAC. Looking at it now, anything after that, I think, is just kind of a crapshoot because of just how tough the NCAA tournament is. But I think you're looking at this team now and saying, okay, there is a very legitimate chance that this team can go and win the MAC and go to another NCAA tournament.
Absolutely. I mean, since 2021, because I won't count the COVID year, Miami has had four seasons where they've had less than 5 losses. 5 losses or less. Last year, they went an unbelievable 26-1. And technically this year, they're on pace to match that. They did drop a game against Central Michigan, but they're 13-1, and nobody is even close to them, really. I mean, Ohio is 8-2. I guess that's the closest, but there's still 5 wins back of them. So, like, I mean, again, you did say, like, we might have put too much emphasis on those early season struggles, but, like, this is one of the best teams this could be one of the best teams that we've seen. And obviously, I know last year was a big record-breaking year. Like, Miami broke a ton of records, and this team isn't necessarily really. I don't think they're necessarily coming close to some of the records, but this is still a very, very good team. Really, really balanced, and the pitching has started to figure. But the pitching's starting to come around.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the same thing we talked about with baseball. It's that the pitching staff's going to be kind of the X factor. Like, there was no question that the hitting was going to come around. With the players they had in that program, even with some slow starts. I know Jenna Golembiewski didn't get off to the best start. I think she was like hitting like 110 or like 170 after a week, and we kind of were like, that's got to come up. It has. She's got 17 homers now and like a OPS over 1,000. Shelby Kunkel's been stellar again. OPS over 1,000, hitting almost 400. So we knew the hitting was going to come around. The pitching numbers, especially, again, it was non-conference stuff, so I kind of have to take it with a grain of salt playing Power 5 opponents. But the pitching numbers weren't great. They're still not amazing, but you're right. It's come around. It's been better than where it was 2 months ago. I'd like to see the whip numbers come down a little bit, just because you need a whip over like 1.5 is like, 1 to 2 runners per inning that can get you into some trouble. So I'd like to see that come down a little bit. But I mean, 25 starts, 16 complete games for Maddie Reeves. Rhea Chevrier has been pretty good too in her 21 appearances. So it's better. I'd still like to see those numbers come down a little bit before we get into the end of the season. But I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, it's the same thing with baseball. It's like if the pitching gives the team a chance to win the game, those bats will be good enough to make it a possibility to win games, even if you're giving up 5 to 6 runs a game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's fun to have teams that are good and teams that win. Like, I mean, from where we started with football going 1-4, and we're over here playing the funeral procession, to having them go to the MAC championship, having Miami men's basketball go to the MAC championship, the women having a WNIT game, and now Miami is probably going to go to 2 playoff appearances in the MAC for softball and baseball. Like, it's fun. Oh, and I mean, how could I forget the men's swimming and diving MVC and Miami field hockey MAC championship? Like, it's just fun. It's just fun. Like it. I mean, I know it. I talked about it. We've talked about it a couple times, but like, Miami is becoming a sports school, whether people say it or not. Like, we are becoming a good mid-major sports school.
Yeah, every program's trending the right way, which is not something we've been able to say in a long time. It's every program kind of has this direction figured out, this upward trajectory figured out, and we're starting to see it generate results in some of the sports now. So I think it's a really good time to be a Miami fan. Obviously, our weeks, our days are numbered here covering the team. We're kind of coming up close to graduation here, so we may not be able to see all of the benefits of it, but we'll be, watching from afar as fans, I'm sure, once once we both walk across that stage and get our diploma. But speaking of, we don't know what our end of season is going to look like. Obviously, we're both grad students. It's now kind of crunch time for us. We will keep everyone posted as soon as we have a better idea of what that looks like and when the transition period towards our new hosts are going to come in. But for now, we will work under the assumption we'll be back here next week unless we say otherwise. So on that note, Ted, any final thoughts before we get on out of here for the week?
Can't get rid of our ugly mugs that easily.
Yeah. No, we're sticking around as long as we can. You're going to have to drag me out of Oxford kicking and screaming.
Yeah. You won't have to drag me kicking and screaming, but But once again, huge thank you to Coach Fox. That was absolutely fantastic. We're so happy that we were able to have him on again. Like Jack said, really long overdue. I know that at points we've kind of cut the women's basketball team a little bit short when we've been talking about them. So it was great to have him on and have a nice conversation with him this morning.
Ditto to everything Ted just said. Hit the nail on the head. But we are out of time once again. So we will see you all next week. Same bad time, same bad channel right here on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on YouTube. In the meantime, have a good weekend, everyone, and we will see you next Thursday.